I'm so happy.
No makeup, no contacts.
Good.
This is okay.
This is what 2 hours after ending and being Oakland mayor looks like, huh, Mayor?
That's right.
So how does it feel? How does it feel?
I'm just full of emotion. I'm full of gratitude. My staff has been kind of texting today, and everybody is kind of in their feels because it's like being in a foxhole some days, and other days it's riding the float at the Warriors championship parade. It's the highest highs, it's the lowest lows. And Nikki, I hella love the town. This is my hometown. I am born and raised. I am ride and die. I love Oakland. And, if I could answer your question in one word, why I do it, it's because I hella love Oakland.
There you go. Okay. So let's talk a little bit. Let's go back a little bit. Let's go back to you deciding to even run to be Oakland's mayor. Why did you want to do it? And I don't want the politician answer. I want the you're not mayor anymore answer. Why did you want to do it?
Well, I think I'm going to give the same answer because I've certainly tried to be an authentic person throughout my time in office. And, I think people think these are things that are plotted out or it was some sort of childhood dream. Like none of that is true. I literally made the decision in one moment. And I will always remember I was sitting at, I think it was Scott's Seafood or the waterfront. It was somewhere in Jack London Square, and the Chamber of Commerce does a poll every fall. And it was while looking at that poll that I made this decision, because the poll said a few things to me. One, it said that despite Jean Kwan's incredible work ethic, her ethics and integrity, her progressive politics, which I agree with. I mean, on a policy level, we actually are really similar. That the polls were showing that just Oakland was not feeling her and that she was not going to be reelected no matter what. And at the time, the only other people that were running were two guys. Love you, men. I'm married to one, but they had like zero experience in government. And I had already logged, like 15 years in different positions with the city of Oakland, working for Governor, then Mayor Jerry Brown, working for the president of the city council, De La Fuente. Like I had, a lot of knowledge. And I felt like Oakland was at this moment where like it could be revitalized. Like there was like this feeling that like the scales were tipping, like double Dutch and like the girls trying to decide whether to run in. Like it felt like people were ready to kind of like get in on Oakland. But as an Oakland native, I was not going to sell Oakland's soul. And I was worried that people that didn't love the city, love its legacy, love its secret sauce, could really abuse the moment. And I just, in that moment, felt like I had the skills to take advantage of the moment, but I had the heart and soul and love of the city to fiercely protect my town. Yeah. And I literally texted my husband and said, we got to talk. Because the polling also showed that I'd never seen poll results of myself. And they were obviously favorable in that poll. And it literally, in that moment, I made that decision.
I would assume that you don't regret that decision, although it's not been an easy 8 years. Yeah. Let's talk about first the lows. What do you wish didn't happen that you did better now that you can look back on the last 8 years?
Yeah, well, I mean, the lowest lows was the ghost ship fire. And I'm not sure there's anything I could have done differently. And, we've tried to keep that needle threaded, that we are going to protect our artists and our creative community, and that we're going to try and have safety and affordability and a creative community at the same time. And I've tried to insist on threading that needle, not swinging or reacting too far in either direction. But as far as things that I wish I had done better, the explosion of homelessness was something that I did not anticipate. When I ran for mayor, it was not a top concern. It was not something that, Oakland has always had poverty, but not the level of like street homelessness that kind of it exploded. And for the longest time, I kept on saying it is the county's responsibility. Talk to the county. They run social safety net. They run public health. They run mental health. Talk to them. And I wish that I had just, dove in feet first, head first, heart first.
Yeah.
From the get-go, because we actually did some pretty great things. We pioneered interim housing solutions with the cabin community model. We pioneered one of the most effective homelessness prevention programs with Keep Oakland Housed. But I feel like we started all that too late. We should have started earlier.
I mean, I was reading in the article, 2,000 housing units were built during your tenure, but 20,000, but homelessness grew 131% since 2015. How do you, as a leader of a city, balance rising property values, which people like, with the fact that wages aren't keeping up? Because that is basic math to me. If I would ever talk to people, I'd be like, look, if you don't support raising wages and you don't support building temporary or permanent housing for the homeless, do you think that these people are just going to up and walk away? Like, I understand building housing, but how do you fix the price of homes, the price, the cost of rents in places like that without the government basically saying rent control or having some sort of control over it?
Well, and Oakland has had all those good policies. We've had the strongest rent stabilization that the California law allows,
Right.
And we've tried to do our fair share. We've not had a NIMBY problem. I say we're the capital of the YIMBY movement. Yes, in my backyard. I want neighbors. I don't mind density. But boy, you can't do it alone. And this is what reminds you that a mayor usually presides over problems that are not unique to their city. It's not like Oakland was the only city that saw an increase in homelessness. All of the cities in America, and especially California, saw this. And when you look at the SMART research, there's some wacko stuff out there that's very political and wants to blame homelessness on Democrats, which is just
because as if that matters. But yeah.
but when you have a shortage of housing, you have high cost of housing, and the wages that are not keeping up with that, you have homelessness. Yeah. And one city by itself cannot solve that, because even if Oakland added 20,000 new homes to our city in 8 years, which we did, biggest building boom in our history since the 1906 earthquake. If nobody around us is adding houses, in San Francisco, you're a bit to blame, but there's really bad players like, Cupertino, then it doesn't matter, because the Bay Area as a region was adding jobs, adding high paying jobs, but not adding housing, and particularly not adding affordable housing. So it's a math problem. It's like, remember playing musical chairs, Nikki?
Yeah. Not enough chairs for everybody.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, a mayoral question, to move off of homelessness for a moment. I remember once being sent to your house because someone had vandalized it. I wonder if, and there's always going to be somebody, right? There's always going to be some craziness, but I wonder if you ever had moments as mayor where you feared for your safety, or, you just got kind of weighed down in the ugliness of what people had to say sometimes, because again, there's always somebody. And I wonder if those moments made it that it wasn't worth being mayor, or if you found that there was enough good things and beauty in what you were trying to do and to achieve for the city of Oakland, that other stuff didn't matter.
So, I definitely had those moments, and thank you for asking. The ghost ship was a hard moment, just because artist housing and supporting the artist community in Oakland is something that I've been deeply involved with long before I became the mayor. But suddenly I was the face of, literally people called me a murderer, and seemed to think I didn't care about this issue when my whole life has been about it. And I believe in government, but I feel like often people are just unfair. Like they don't want us to look in their windows. They don't want us to bother them until a tragedy happens, and then it's our fault.
Right.
But on a very personal level, as a mother, there was something about people coming to where my children sleep that crossed a line. And the night of that vandalism, the scariest part about it, like the paint, Actually, some of it didn't come off. It's still
Oh,
Geez.
on
Oh,
our
wow, really?
we have a stone wall, and somehow the paint just soaked in, and no matter how much pressure washing and scrubbing we did, it's still there. You can see it. But
Mm.
what they did, and I was still up. I was awake when this all happened. I was working late, and they set off firecrackers and then started pelting our house
Oh,
with these
geez.
clay balls filled with paint. And so I thought our house was being shot up.
that's
And
really
so
scary.
that moment of, running upstairs and like screaming at my children to like, wake up, get under the bed. Are they okay? Like that was, the paint, whatever. But yes, I constantly felt in fear. When I did the ICE raid, I had all sorts of crazy right-wing people posting photos of my children on
Mm.
social media saying they
Oh,
hope someone kills them.
oh
So
my
that
God.
that is the kind of stuff that crosses the line. And I
Yeah.
found in this election cycle, there were a lot fewer candidates. And I think people aren't willing to make the
Yeah.
kind of personal sacrifice that is now being expected. I lost count of how many protests were at my house. And
Wow.
especially during the pandemic, my kids were in school, in the house. And
Yeah.
there's, a lady with the loudspeaker
Mm.
all day long. And that's just too much. And especially if you want women and you want moms, you want
Yeah.
parents with school-aged children. And believe me, you want parents in office because they make policies that help other parents.
Yep.
I just think it's too much. And we do need to think about how we balance, our beloved right to free speech, which as Americans we cherish, but also just a recognition that, yes, politicians need to have a sanctuary that
Yeah.
is their home.
I love that you mentioned that, and thank you so much for being so honest about those
Yeah.
emotions, because I feel like when people choose what they wanna do nowadays, I mean, I don't know, being a politician seemed kind of boring, I mean, yes, there'd be, assassinations of presidents, but okay, you wanna be a city mayor, you wouldn't think that it would be such a divisive thing, it would be hard work, you'd have to be on, on the ground with the people there. So what made it worth it for you? Talk about some of the highs. I mean, when you think back on the last 8 years, I mean, there's, obviously political wins, but what do you remember most? What puts that warm feeling in your heart as being mayor of Oakland?
Nikki, the children.
Mhm.
And, part of leadership is planting seeds where other people will enjoy the shade. Um, but, these children will never know that, we're the ones that put in, universal college savings accounts for every low income baby for the next generation, universal college scholarships for every OUSD graduate for the next generation, and universal preschool for the next 30 years. So those wins, closing the digital divide during the pandemic and keeping it closed for 3 years now for school students, like those are big wins. And, the thing that I always said and gave me the most joy as mayor was looking into a young person's eyes and telling them, I'm the mayor of Oakland. I know a lot of people. I meet a lot of people, and I am telling you, you are special. You are brilliant. I can just see an incredible future in front of you. Promise me you will never forget how awesome you are. That
Awesome.
was my favorite thing.
That has to be really cool. I mean, that has to be probably near the top of the coolest thing you do as your job. Now, you're not mayor anymore officially. Now Sheng Tao, you were not backing Sheng Tao. But apparently she was homeless herself at one point. What do you, I don't know, look into your crystal ball. What do you think is going to be her maybe obstacle, her biggest thing that she needs to tackle? I would assume homelessness. Maybe she brings a different perspective to it. What do you think? You think Oakland's in good hands?
I do. Look, she wasn't my first choice, but she was on my ballot. She was a choice of mine, and I've known her. We actually met because our kids went to elementary school together.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And ironically, so did Lauren Taylor's kids. Like all our kids went to the same elementary school, 45 elementary schools in Oakland.
Wow.
what are the chances that all our kids went to the same one, and it's the same elementary school Lauren Taylor and I both attended ourselves growing
how
up.
funny.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Who knew? Walking Miller Wolverines, go. But so I think Sheng Tao has a lot of grit. She is decisive. She is good at seeing compromises. So I have every confidence that she will be a great mayor. I think she's inheriting a hard time. People are super grumpy. People, stop being so grumpy. We survived the pandemic. We've, seen that we can come together and take care of one another. I know we are afraid of changes, but changes also bring possibilities. I think we're going to redefine how we work. I think we're going to have better live-work balance and have more hospitable work conditions for parents. So those are good things. But I think Sheng is going to have all that grumpiness and declining revenues, because all that one-time pandemic aid that cities got is going to get spent down by this June. So this next budget's going to be a hard one. She'll have that divisive issue of policing in Oakland, always a rough one. But I think she's really skilled at finding compromises, and she does listen to people, and I think that will serve her.
It's funny that you mentioned like stop being so grumpy, because you can give people all sorts of things, right? It's like, well, we have this and we have this and we have this, but there's those, open the door issues that stick with people, right? And so if that one specific thing that they hate seeing or they experience, how do you balance that in your life? Just doing a job like that, how do you continue to promote the good when people are like, no, that doesn't matter. Look at all of this other stuff.
I'll be honest with you, Nikki, I'm a very data-driven person. And it was hard for me for a long time because people would say, oh my God, this is the worst crime has ever been in Oakland. And I would feel like, whipping out an Excel spreadsheet and saying, actually, no, it's not by a long shot.
The crime they see is what they see is true, right?
But what I found, and it took me a minute because I'm a very big data geek. I'm very, logical. Is that it is really important as a leader to validate people's feelings.
Yeah.
And it does not, and this is something Chesa Boudin never learned. Boy, he's like the picture child of failure in this department. You have to acknowledge and validate people's feelings. Right. And it's your job as the mayor to just even hear people, make them feel heard, hold their trauma, hold their feelings, and then after you've acknowledged that and honored that, then you show them the path to the better future. Because mayors have got to be in the hope business. The minute that we lose hopefulness, it is all over, because that is really our job as leaders.
Yeah. Well said. Very well said. Okay. So now you're not mayor anymore. So when we left Station X, as we like to call it, we moved into this, and it's not a huge stretch. I was saying this before I brought you on. I mean, we're still in the kind of conversation, different medium type thing. There's a bit of a learning curve, of course, but kind of in the same wheelhouse. How are you deciding on what you want to do next?
Well, I am trying to give myself ideally a year, but we'll see if I can make it that long.
Okay.
of some space. I have been just a workaholic my whole life. I've literally had a 24/7 job. And especially, I've worked for the city of Oakland for more than 22 years, Nikki. Wow. I was a staffer to politicians before I became a politician. And that, that work never stops. I literally got texted last night at 10 p.m. It's really?
Give me a break, just a little bit. There you go.
Listen, I took care of it. There was a building in East Oakland that got flooded. All the residents had to be relocated. They were worried because there's no electricity on and it's vacant. They wanted extra police patrols. I took care of it. I handled it.
You didn't go, that there's a new mayor tomorrow, right? No, okay.
I did not. But I'm sure I am going to be continuing to be involved with things I care about. I'm not quite ready to announce yet, but a couple of opportunities have come my way to stay engaged in, obviously I'm very passionate about children and educational equity. So stay tuned. I'm going to stay a little involved with that issue. The issue of the power of public-private partnerships. Stay tuned. I'm going to stay involved with that issue, and fighting poverty and the racial wealth gap. Stay tuned. I'm going to stay a little involved with that issue. But I'm trying to have a moment to breathe, have a moment to process this awesome journey that I've had the intense privilege of being on. And of course, the thing that I'm going to miss most is the people, the people who care about their communities, that are engaged, even when you don't always agree with them. They are the best people because they're passionate about our communal best selves, our democracy, our community, how we can take something called government at its most local and intimate level and use it to reduce human suffering, to reduce harm, and to create a more fair and just society. That is awesome work. And I want to just reflect and process a little bit and see how I might continue to advance all the things that I care about without the distractions of, the crisis of the day. And Oakland is never lacking in those.
No, it is not. I love that you said you're going to take some time and some space. I do think that that's important. You should go on a long vacation somewhere and turn your phone off, or throw it in the ocean or something like that. Our doors are always open. I want to stay in touch. I want, you to disclose when you're ready, what is next for you. I've always appreciated how available you have been to us, how open you've been about what's been going on. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask. Do you think that Mayor-elect Tao will be able to get the A's ballpark built?
I do. I keep on saying I left her with the bases loaded. Come on. Good pitch. So yes, I do. I mean, I left her with, $375 million in infrastructure grants, secured competitive grants from the state and federal government. Because, we want to do both. We want to keep the A's. We want to create this new waterfront ballpark for the people, but we want to do it in a way that protects our city's long-term fiscal health, something that has not been part of sports deals in the past. And I think that she will be able to bring that over the finish line. And Nikki, if the A's aren't smart enough to take advantage of that opportunity to create that new waterfront neighborhood, somebody else will be. But I do hope it's them. I believe it will be. And they need to get it done this year because they've got some deadlines from Major League Baseball to meet. So the pressure is on.
Awesome. Well, former Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf, I appreciate you. We'll stay in touch, and I'd love to have you back on.
Yeah. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Kim. And everybody support the Nikki Maduro show.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Nation X, that they were wrong, they were fools. And we've got to keep this kind of intimate, coverage of the news, local news. Our democracy depends on it. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Former Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf. Happy New Year. Bye-bye. Yeah, so there she is. She's an amazing woman. I'm sorry. You don't have to agree with all of her politics, but as a human being, as someone that has been really out there talking with the people, you can't say she hasn't. And so we wish her the best of luck. And I'll be keeping my eyes on that ballpark. How much of a disappointment would it be if after all of that work and all of that negotiation, it didn't happen? So a lot of thank yous to the former mayor. And
I was really moved by what she said about women in politics and mothers in politics and how
we need more of them. We need
more of them, and we need to create that space for people to, to feel safe. What she went through, she should never have had to go through. Outrageous.
Well, it's part of the job, and unfortunately, in 2022, 2023, it shouldn't be. Absolutely right.
And the safety of your children should never be in question.
No,
that shouldn't be part of the job. That's wrong. That's absolutely wrong. You have someone who's trying to do their best for the city, and you can disagree with them, and you can go to City Hall and protest, whatever. But, you start coming, as she said, to the place where your children sleep and they're trying to be homeschooled because of COVID. My heart was breaking when I heard her tell that story. And yet she stayed. And yet she did the job. She persisted, right?
Exactly.
She kept on going. And and like you said, she's always made herself available to you and I. There are a lot of mayors that haven't. right?
I did
And
reach out to Mayor-elect Shangtao, have not heard back, but
and
hopefully
so
we
she's
will.
and you're we sometimes get criticized. Oh, you ask her the softball questions. No, we put some hard questions to
Yes.
her, and she may not always have given us the answers that we were hoping for, but she always gave us an answer.
Yeah.
And
And she never said, "You can't ask me that question."
Right.
That's never been said. "Do not ask me
Never.
that. I'm not talking about that."
Right.
No. And we wouldn't be doing our jobs if not. But again, like some of you, I remember when we were at Station X, Kim, they'd always want us to ask her the same question. Like we've asked that question.
Yeah,
I mean,
we
how many
have.
times do you need to hear the same answer about what's happening with like
Right.
the Wood Street encampment or this, that, or the other? Yes, and
Right.
she's given an answer, and that's what's
Right.
happening, and things don't happen overnight. But yeah, I'm excited to see what she has coming up. But
Right.
it's just that interesting question of
God,
what do I do? You know,
if anyone
maybe I'll
deserves a break, it's her, right?
exactly. Well,
Whew.
can you imagine if she came on, she's like, you know what? I've decided to open a spa or something. You know what I mean? Something completely different. You're like, oh, that's from
I've
left field.
decided to be a lady who lunches,
I
a
just
woman of leisure.
oh,
Yeah.
or just a business owner or doing
Mhm.
something like that. So again, that was why do I do it? The mayor's
Yeah.
addition. And send me your guys's ideas for this segment. I already had someone talking about the restaurant business. I reached out, I'm like, if you're willing to come on, if you do something that you
Right.
think people don't fully understand what the job entails, reach out to me. I'll bring
Yeah.
you on this show because it's learning about each other, the process, and it can help other people who are thinking about possibly going into the same type of field or job or whatever. We can give advice about doing those sorts of things. So again, the email is the Nikki Maduro show at gmail.com. And I love this segment. I think that it can be really, really fun and we can learn a lot about each other.